Welcome to the Unofficial Arbor Artists Webcast. I'm your host and producer, Ezekiel Quartz, with sound engineer Jules Nearing. We live in a great town, a town that has rich pockets of art and creativity, and our goal is to connect those bubbles and give you all a voice, and join us in creating a local culture of art that we can all say we are proud to be a part of. Today our guest is Jeremiah Mishka Jaroch, also known as The Bear or Jer Bear. Welcome, Jeremiah. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yep.
Pretty good. So you just spent this last weekend at a tattoo convention, and you yourself are an apprentice tattoo artist. Stationed at Dolly Llama Tattoos. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Dolly Llama?
Yeah, it's on the west side of Ann Arbor, and I'm currently apprenticing under Danny Felchek and CJ Jones. I've been apprenticing for about a year and I want to say a year and a half or a year and 7 months. And it's a very small shop. I was apprenticing at another shop a while ago, and the shop that I'm at now currently with Danny and CJ is just a lot more positive environment, and they're a lot more invested in me becoming a good tattoo artist rather than a tattoo artist who is out there just kind of doing the bare minimum and
Just struggling to get by.
yeah, just being average.
Not having a name so much as just being a man behind a tattoo gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you have a upcoming show at Dolly Llama Tattoos. Would you like to tell us a little bit of information about that?
Yeah, the women that I'm apprenticing under are hosting an art show for me in March. It's Friday, March 7th, and they're gonna be displaying my work. It's some of my older work, but also some of my newer work that I've been working on. Not all of it is. None of it is actually tattoo related. It's mostly just my watercolor work, which is the stuff that I do outside of tattooing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it is like finished paintings, whereas a lot of it, or some of the other stuff that is going to be in the show, is unfinished illustrations or illustrations that are just done in pencil. So, yeah.
Oh, right on. Right on. So, let's see. Yeah, you're playing with that new tattoo that you got this weekend. Who'd you get that from?
While I was in Iowa, I got work done by Justin Harris, who goes by the Green Bay Bully. He's from Wisconsin. He's been tattooing for about 5 years, and he did this huge sweet piece on my leg.
It looks pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. What do you want to say? The serendipity of actually getting in to see him.
Yeah,
That didn't.
it was a cause of event cause of events, chain reaction of events that I was able to kind of get in with him because he's super talented artist, kind of doing really well. And typically, from what I understand, he's very busy, so it was kind of lucky that I was able to get tattooed by him. It was a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, you told me the story about it earlier. It was a series of unlikely causality.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. Definitely very lucky, though, to be tattooed by him.
Yeah, that's some pretty serious work there. Pretty serious work. So, you say he's from Green Bay, Wisconsin. You're tattooing out of Ann Arbor right now, but you're not from around here either, are you? You come from Philadelphia. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Philadelphia?
Yeah. So I'm actually originally from Michigan, but I moved to Philadelphia when I was 4 because my dad was finishing up his master's degree for teaching, and we ended up staying there until I went to college to pursue art. Philadelphia's got a pretty rich art scene, and I didn't know much about the tattoo scene actually until after I moved out of Philadelphia and became an apprentice and learned about some of the artists that are there currently and previously too. And I don't know, I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and it's pretty conservative going to a Catholic school in the ways of the arts, because you typically don't do very much other than painting and drawing, which is good because you get really good at those things, but you don't really get to try very much else. But, I mean, the city's great, and there's a lot of art and culture, super good restaurants. And,
well, a lot of the best creativity kind of spawned from that stress. And going to definitely. Catholic school just oozes stress.
Yeah.
Right from the very start.
But I did have a really, really supportive art teacher, which was really awesome, and she kind of encouraged me to pursue art, because I wasn't entirely sure about it when I was, pursuing college, if that's in fact what I was going to do, or like choose as a career path. So I'm pretty grateful that she was like really supportive.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's important for people to have guidance counselors, role models that push us in the right path like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So before that, did you have any sort of artistic inclination? You haven't been drawing since you were just a little child?
Yeah.
Or spending your free time, not, of course everybody in elementary school in this country goes through, a little bit of basic art training.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't remember when it was. I mean, it was definitely at a very young age. But I remember as like a child, I always drew bats. I don't know, I was fascinated by them, even before I was like in art classes. And
yeah.
I remember like being a bat for Halloween, and like that was the one thing I drew when I was like a lot younger. So it's like, I don't know, it's something I've always been interested in, even before like being a art student in elementary school or whatever. And I don't even know where it comes from, because I mean, neither of my parents are really artistic. I mean, some of the members of my extended family are artistic, but I don't know. It's just something I was always like, yeah, drawing is sweet.
So a lot of science now is saying that being creative, being artistic is the product of, say, social compression. Being in a situation of population density, when when there's a lot of different people pushed into a smaller area and they're forced to interact with each other more. They're forced to come up with, more unique ideas to basically get their foot in the door of, maybe getting out of their bad neighborhood or, that sort of thing. Long pause. We'll edit this part out. So,
I mean, do you want me to like answer that or like confirm that, or just see how I feel about that?
What do you think about that? Like, do you think that being a child in like a more population dense area, particularly one like Philadelphia, where like you go out in public and there's graffiti? It's, Philadelphia is kind of a place that's known for its graffiti. Do you think that influences your art?
I mean, maybe at the start. The thing is, I can definitely agree with what you're saying. Once I came to Ann Arbor, in a way, because, like, going to school with a lot of people and being in, like, a classroom where everyone's an art maker and you're all forced to look at each other's art and look at it critically, it kind of causes you to, like, split off and go in your own direction in a way and kind of form your own style of artwork, or, I don't know, just look at yourself critically and art making. I don't know, kind of that idea where you were talking about, like, all these people together, like in a highly populated area. I mean, a classroom's a little bit different because it's smaller, but I mean, coming to Michigan and being in these moderately sized art classes, like, we're all being taught the same thing, but we're all doing it differently, or we all have our own ideas. So I'd say, yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens.
I say that I think that's kind of an interesting thing, though, because when you're going to a state university, particularly you came to U of M from, a different state altogether, the people that are going to that university aren't all from the same part of the state. They come from all over different states. And, there are a lot of different sort of subcultures and local cultures that people, have had build up their personalities and their styles. The nurture that they've had is different where they're from than the nurture you had where you're from. Did you see a lot of that sort of spectrum of different art styles in your class, or do you think that that you're particularly more unique than maybe some of the other artists that were in your class? Did you see a lot of like copyists? Maybe.
I'm gonna say no, but it's like pretty interesting because, like, obviously, like you're saying, like, everyone comes from a different background, and all these people coming to the University of Michigan to study art, obviously everyone's on different levels of creativity and, thought process and stuff. So I want to say, like, technically everyone's got a little bit of a different level. So, like, everyone is making their own art, but it's still somewhat unrefined. And it's not till later on that, people start to refine it even further and get their own styles. Because, like, in the first few years, it's kind of like you're still trying to figure out what it is that you like the most, or, like, what you're good at.
You're exploring different mediums. You're exploring different influences.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you think would have been different in your style, maybe, if you had gone to, instead of coming to University of Michigan, maybe going to a school in California or New York and some of the other more highly populous areas where there's a little more distinct flavor?
It's really hard to say how my style would have changed differently. I mean, the thing is, like, my artwork in particular has always been influenced by, pretty largely by music, and that's something I just picked up from my cousin, so I have a hard time thinking that it would be completely different just because of that being such a large influence, and that wasn't something that I necessarily picked up at school. It was something that, like, I was always interested from the outside. Like, it was cool because at going to college to, hone my skills, I definitely improved technically, and, a little bit the way that I thought about things, but, a lot of my art tastes, I think, probably would have stayed the same. So I'm not saying that if I would have gone to somewhere like school somewhere in California or New York, my style wouldn't have, changed at all, because it definitely would have been influenced by where I was at. But, a lot of my artwork is more influenced by, my personal interests rather than the environment that I'm in, or city that I'm in, or state that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Do you have any sort of count or recollection of how many different tattoos you've worked on at this point?
I couldn't actually say, but it's got to be somewhere between 150 and 200, I'm betting. I've done a decent amount. It's kind of hard to keep track when you do kind of multiple sessions. Right now, where I'm at my apprenticeship, I'm not very fast, so even smaller tattoos kind of take a longer amount of time for me, so it's kind of hard to keep track. But I'm betting it's somewhere between 150 and 200, probably.
That just seems like a lot. And you've only been doing this for, you said a year and a half to
about
2 years.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a lot, and it's just one of those things that, I mean, it's like a lot of art forms. You really just gotta practice it a lot to get good, and I just gotta try and do as many as I can to get better. So,
yeah. Well, I think it was a pretty natural progression for you to move to tattoos, considering the emphasis that you've had in your life previously with drawing, with pencil drawing, with ink, with your watercolors. You have a strong association with line as your primary form of artwork, as opposed to textures and colors specifically.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I was always originally I was pursuing a career in 3D animation and modeling, and I wanted to be a character modeler for Pixar or DreamWorks or just any movie studio really. Out in California was where I was looking. But the thing is, like, I've always had an interest in tattooing, and something about it always kind of drew me in. I mean, I only started getting tattooed personally when I was, I want to say 19 or 20, and it's something that I was always interested in, wanted to become involved with, and I've always been, personally, I've always thought I've been way better at drawing and illustration, and I kind of thought tattooing was something that would happen for me, but kind of down the line, so it was kind of nice that I was able to get involved in it sooner than I thought.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, unlike doing the CGI work like you had been planning to do and trying to do for so long, it's something you can kind of just, jump into. You don't have to go through this huge process of education and selling yourself and selling your capabilities and your variety to, people who have never heard of you, just out of college. Just kind of that small guy starting out. I imagine it's pretty hard to actually get into a, professional studio, because there's so few of them actually doing production. There are tattoo studios everywhere. Every single, medium-sized town has a tattoo studio.
No, I definitely, yeah, it's definitely, there are a lot of tattoo studios in most cities, or tattoo parlors. The thing is, it's just like anything really, especially any art form. There's every range from, small to large, and the quality, same thing, it all varies. And the thing is, the way that, so far through my experience, or what I've kind of witnessed with tattooing and getting into the tattooing industry, is it's not as easy as everyone thinks, and especially now with the caliber of artists that are coming up right now currently and so young. People's expectations, other artists' expectations, are way higher now for people who are interested in becoming tattoo artists. it's pretty common for people to want to be a tattoo artist because they think it's like a rock star lifestyle, or you get to like live pretty casually and party and like your job is easy. But from where I'm at in my apprenticeship and what I've been experiencing, like going to conventions and just being exposed to other artists and their work out there, it's just the quality of work is becoming so good and just so impressive that it's becoming, I think, much more difficult for people who really want to become tattoo artists versus those people who want to be tattoo artists because they think it's like glamorous and you can live the way you want and party all the time. I think that's that line is just, that comparison between those two groups of people is just, it's becoming way more evident because people want to get other artists want to get involved with people who are serious about becoming tattoo artists and good tattoo artists, not just a tattoo artist that's gonna be okay with just doing the minimum.
Just doing tracery.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of what I've also witnessed too is that a lot of artists now won't even take on apprentices. They just don't want to because, first of all, it's just like, it's a very tight-knit community and people don't want to bring on someone who's going to learn the bare minimum and then just be like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go peel off and do tattoos out of my house, or I'm going to do tattoos wherever I'm can tattoo people. It's like,
yeah, learn the bare minimum, and then with that bare minimum become competition because they're doing the tattoos independently, whereas somebody would normally, if they were going for a tattoo, actually go to one of the shops around town.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think too, a lot of people now are starting to notice the difference between a good and bad tattoo. There's still a large group of people out there who definitely don't know that or understand that, like looking at a tattoo and being like, oh, okay, that's good or that's bad, or hey, this is cheap, or hey, this is expensive. There's still, a lot of people out there who are just like, I just want the cheapest tattoo, and I just want a tattoo because I can say that I've got a tattoo. But
the butterfly on the ankle.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I mean, I see it a lot more now because I'm going to conventions and, getting to meet and network with other artists, but people are willing to, pay more money to get a really, really good tattoo because, I mean, it's much like anything else. You get what you pay for.
It's for life.
Yeah.
Well, aside from laser removal, it's for life.
Yeah.
How would you describe your general style?
It's definitely more illustrative. It's pretty... Tattooing has kind of changed the way that I illustrate things. It's a lot more heavy, like, line work based, but I also love watercolor, and so I do the both of them. I'll do a line drawing, and then I'll paint it, and then I'll reline it with like a pencil. And I'm really interested into how structured drawing with pencil can be, but I'm also really into how like unpredictable and messy watercolor can be. So it's kind of a marriage of the two. And I mean, my subject matter, like I said, is really influenced by typically like life events or music that I'm really interested in. So, I mean, it's kind of a wide variety of subject matter, but it's definitely, it's very line work intensive, but also very watercolor-y and ink-y.
Watercolory.
Yeah.
Watercolory.
Aqueous, if you will.
Aqueous?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've recently been playing around with watercolors a little more than I have in the past. They are very chaotic.
Yeah,
in many ways. The unexpected could happen at any time.
yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you can't really control. I mean, you can moderate it and like try and use it in a way that works towards the kind of visual things that you appreciate or the effect that you want, but it's kind of a wild medium to use.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of what makes watercolor uniquely valuable in and of itself. If you look at an acrylic painting or an oil painting, you can go back with the same types of paints, or even maybe just, like a little different brand of paints, and reproduce the exact same thing with the same brush strokes, using the same mixture of paint. But with watercolor, you're never going to get the exact same effect. Never.
Yeah, definitely. It's always changing, especially because of the amount of water you're using, or the amount of actual watercolor you're using. It's always changing, so it's pretty hard to replicate anything twice with watercolor.
Yeah. Which, makes them uniquely valuable.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Uniquely valuable. Let's see. You used to have the ideal of opening your own tattoo shop here in Ann Arbor, Laced in Ink. Would you like to talk about how that kind of fell by the wayside? Are you still planning to do that in the future?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, like, the more and more I work in this industry, the more and more I realize, especially if you want to be a good tattooer, you have to put the time in, because you can't just learn the bare minimum and then be like, okay, I'm gonna be a tattooer and I'm gonna open my own shop. And a lot of people can do that, and just because of the way things are, and there's a lot of bad artwork out there, and who am I to say that artwork is bad? But a lot of people just want to be like, okay, I can do this, so I'm going to open my own tattoo shop. And ultimately, that is my goal. I want to own my own shop, but I also want to be a really good artist. Tattoos are permanent, and it's not like I want to go out there and ruin someone's skin and give them a subpar tattoo and be happy about it because I own my own business. I want to own my own business, but before that, I want to be a really good artist, someone who is able to use the tools efficiently and confidently to give people what they want, not just get them in and out of the door and take their money and be happy with the fact that I got a paycheck.
Right. Have you ever had the experience yet of somebody being generally unhappy with the tattoo that you've given them?
No, honestly, I've been pretty lucky. Most of the people that I've tattooed kind of understand my background and also understand that I'm an apprentice, and that, where I'm at currently with my skill level, the things I can do on paper vary from what I can do on the skin. So most people are pretty understanding, and I haven't had a bad experience where someone was like, oh my God, this is awful. Most people are pretty pleased with the work that I'm doing on them right now.
So you've mentioned to me some time ago that you're planning to take a trip to Germany sometime within the next year to basically get a tattoo from one of two different tattoo artists there.
Yeah, I would really like to. I don't know if it's in the cards, but
Yeah, after what you just got, that might be a little bit of dicey maneuver financially this year, I suppose. But would you like to talk about the artists that you were interested in getting work done from out there?
yeah, definitely. Well, both artists are in Germany. I'm actually not entirely sure where the one artist is located, but they both have very different styles. Mark Halbstark is probably one of my favorite tattoo artists, and his style is pretty interesting. It's not, I don't think, a very typical style of tattooing, but it's very colorful, very illustrative, and his content is like pretty weird and out there. And I've actually, messaged him on Facebook, and he's been pretty cool about, giving me pointers and generally being pretty encouraging. And he was always like, if you're in Germany, talk to me and we'll get you tattooed. So he's been like a huge influence, but I'm not entirely sure exactly where his shop is at, but
Easy to find if you have his name.
Yeah.
And his name.
Yeah.
We have this magical information nexus called the internet that brings us news like addresses and phone numbers of businesses, and people are trading things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other artist is Daniel Meyer, who is based out of Germany, or Berlin, Germany. And I've contacted him a couple times to find out where his studio was and, how to go about getting there from the United States. And he was also pretty cool. And his work is all primarily like line and dot work. And it's really complex. And same thing, I mean, the biggest thing that I've started to kind of gather is like you can learn a lot just from watching people, especially if it's for an extended period of time. For example, this past weekend I was watching Justin most of the time while he was tattooing me, just to kind of see how he would tackle the tattoo. And that's part of the reason that I will also want to get tattooed by Mark and Daniel, is just to watch the way that they kind of undertake the tattoo and their own style, and how they get their tattoos to like emulate and work so well with like the human body.
So you're attempting to assimilate the emulation.
Yeah, I mean, or try and apply it to my own work and work efficiently and creatively.
Yeah. That's always, such an important thing no matter what you're doing. Just watching people who already do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Getting that little flick of the wrist trick that somebody might have that might be just the key that you need that you've been missing in your own stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's got their own tricks. I've learned and am learning right now in the tattoo industry. Everyone's got their own little secrets or techniques, and it's I don't know, you can pick up a lot just from watching people.
So when you're preparing a tattoo, when you're preparing a drawing that you're planning for display or planning for commerce or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
Is there any special process that you go through, from, that initial tick of, like, maybe this is the direction I want to go with the idea? Is there any specific process you go through every time, like A to B, that gets you where you need to go?
Yeah, so my style has changed. My artistic process has changed quite a bit since I've been going through my apprenticeship, especially because tattooing is permanent. So I was like, what is going to be the best way to kind of tackle approaching a tattoo technically, especially with my level. So typically, if someone gives me an idea for a tattoo, or if I have an idea for a piece, what I'll do is I'll start to kind of just do like a rough sketch just to get an idea of like the way I want it to be laid out or the shapes, just, you know, very, very simple. And then from there, I'll just look up a ton of reference images, whether it be in books, magazines, online, Instagram, just wherever I can find anything that is even remotely relative to what I'm drawing, and just see whether it's actual photos or other illustrations, and see what makes those things so effective or makes them look good, and kind of apply it to the thing that I'm drawing. And then I'll gradually just build it up until it's like a very refined drawing. And once I'm done with the line drawing, I always scan it to keep it back up just in case, because I still mess stuff up. And it's good to have a backup, even though it's kind of irritating at times to have that backup. And like, you have to ruin a piece and then I have to redraw it or trace it. It can be irritating, but it's good to have that backup, because it does happen.
God forbid you're working on a watercolor and then you spill your tea on it when you get up to go to the bathroom. Let's see. Is there any specific type of ink or watercolor paint, like brand-wise or like maybe texture-wise, that you really prefer to work with?
Yeah, so my watercolors, I use Grumbacher and Winsor Newton, but honestly, I've used everything from really cheap stuff to really expensive stuff, and personally what matters to me is the color. And you know, sometimes the cheap stuff has a really good color profile, or even the really expensive stuff has really good color profiles. Honestly, to me, it's just like, if it looks good on the canvas, it looks good to me. So it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be cheap to me.
Right. So you don't look at maybe paints that hold their color longer. It's just the specific appearance of the paint.
Yeah, and
the short term.
Well, the other thing is too, I find, especially when I'm finished pieces, if anything happens to the piece physically after the fact, I kind of just let it go, because I'm like, it's part of the art now. I mean, it sounds like a silly thing, but I mean, if it gets wrecked or it ages and the color doesn't hold or whatever, I mean, I think part of the reason I like watercolors is it can be so like messy and destructive. So, you know, I kind of feel that way after I'm done painting it. Like, anything that happens to it, it's just part of it now. So,
right. I recently had the knowledge of a drawing that I did some years ago that had a cupcake thrown at it, and the cupcake stayed on the picture for quite a while.
yeah.
And there's still kind of like the oil mark of where the cupcake hit it.
Yeah.
But you can barely tell it's there. But that little bit of, you know, that memory is always going to be there. And, you know, when I'm gone, nobody's really going to know what the oil mark meant anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still there. Let's see. What's your favorite subject? You mentioned bats earlier, but you know, I haven't seen you really tattoo much in the way of bats.
Yeah, for sure. Hang on a second, I go to the bathroom. What was the question again? Sorry.
So, so like, I believe we were talking about bats.
Subject matter?
Subject matter, yes.
Man, that is a good question.
Because a lot of the people that you tattoo, they come to you with an idea of what they want already.
Yeah, pretty typically. And when that happens, I try and just emulate their idea in my own style, which pretty typically most people are pretty satisfied with. But I mean, personally,
Sombreros excluded.
Yeah. But pretty typically, I don't know. I mean, filigree is one of like my favorite things because it's kind of abstract, and it's more about like the way it flows and fills the space, which I think is pretty interesting. But I mean, geez, I pretty much draw just about anything. I think a lot of my work usually incorporates some kind of character because, you know, that's originally what I was trying to pursue, was like character design. So whether it be like human or male or female, there's usually some sort of character integrated in most of my work. Some sort of character element, yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Anthropomorphization.
Yeah.
Or anthropomorphism?
Maybe, yeah.
Anthropomorphology.
Something.
Faction. Anthropomorphication. Somewhere along those lines. One of those words I'm sure is in the dictionary and means exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you think that there's ever going to be a time in your life when you stop drawing? Like, you know, maybe an event, an end goal in your life where you're like, well, this is it. I made it, and you know, it's time to take a rest. Maybe I'll do something here and there, but you know, pretty much like are you doing this with the plan to retire from it someday?
I mean, hopefully never. I mean, I absolutely love this, and like I don't think that I'll ever stop doing it. I mean, the thing is, I want to do it as a job, but I also just want like doing it as a hobby. So, I mean,
yeah.
And from when I started, when I was 6, drawing bats till high school and then through college, it's just like my style and my abilities have just evolved so much. So, I mean, God, if I keep doing it now until who knows when, who knows how much is going to change or evolve. So I think I'll probably just continue to do it and see where it kind of goes. I don't think I'll ever stop doing it because I love doing it so much. I mean, when I'm not doing it, I'm like, man, I should be drawing or something. So,
money is no motivation.
No, I mean, I just want to be a better artist. So, geez, if I keep at it, one day I'll be good, right?
Oh, one day. I think you've already hit that point. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that point.
That's pretty cool that you think that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Let's see. How do you think you would react if, like you said, you were considering going to Germany for tattoos? What if somebody from Germany heard about you and came to Michigan to get tattooed by you?
I mean,
how would you react?
I would feel like that's ridiculously awesome. I mean, God, I'd be so flattered, mostly.
Would it make you quit your day job? It's like, I'm ready to do this full time.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just like, it would just be very reassuring that someone out there appreciates like my artwork and likes it. I mean, I love my artwork obviously because it's my artwork, but
right.
You know, it'd be pretty cool if someone was like, man, I'm willing to travel just to, you know, hang out with you and get some of your artwork on me. I mean, that would be pretty unbelievable to me.
Right. So if you actually can go do that, imagine that the guys you're going to see are, probably feel much the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
Much the same way. Let's see. You have done a fair amount of self promotion. There's some pretty creative methods of self promotion. Like, I still have a so-called swag tag and a couple of stickers that you've used in the past to advertise your website and advertise for shows and just basically giving people that personalized pieces of artwork. Like, did you pick that up in college? Is that something that you plan to do more of in the future? How do you think that's helped you out?
I mean, the thing is, I've found with artwork is, it's pretty cool if you can paint or draw or whatever kind of artwork you do. Like, it's all cool if you can do that, but typically people aren't going to go looking for it necessarily. So I've always just kind of found that, hey, like, I got to get my artwork out there, otherwise no one's going to see it. So I try and approach those kind of things simply but creatively. So just kind of using what is in front of me and what is within my budget to catch people's attention. So I don't know if it's necessarily something that I learned in college or was doing in college. I mean, I think more interested in college about like kind of improving my art skills and then building a portfolio website and stuff, but people's attention spans are pretty short, so you just gotta get your stuff out there in a way that's going to be attention catching. So I kind of just was like, all right, I got to do this, but I got to do it simply and cheaply and hope that people who see my artwork like it. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do with the stuff that I've been using, like stickers or the laminates, that kind of stuff.
Have you ever considered doing some art teaching, maybe in some of your extra free time?
I've thought
teaching basic drawing.
Yeah, I mean,
sort of thing.
I've definitely thought about it, and it's kind of a career path or just like a job that I thought would be pretty interesting to pursue in general. Because I mean, my dad's a 6th grade teacher, and my art teacher, and actually in grade school and in high school, were both very supportive of me like pursuing art. And I've done some like freelance teaching for like CG classes and stuff, and it's definitely something I'd be interested in. I don't know if now is the time for that, but it's definitely something that I have actually thought about, and it would be pretty cool.
Well, I know you as a Sagittarius. That's the sign of the teacher, so to speak. It would be a pretty natural thing for you to pursue art teaching.
Yeah.
So I would definitely support you with that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somewhere down the line. Actually, I probably will pursue that somewhere down the line. I mean, it won't be, I don't think anytime soon, but I probably will at some point.
All right. So, looks like we're closing in on about an hour now. Just like to, I guess, before we go ahead and wrap this up, you're here because of your show coming up. Mention that one more time and maybe a little more of the details. You said that you are going to be offering food and maybe some beverage at the show.
Yeah. So the show is March 7th, and the opening is from 8 p.m. till midnight at Dolly, Llama Tattoos, and the address is 1524 North Maple Road, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 48103, I think it is. And it's mostly going to be work from my portfolio. Some of it is old, most of it's new stuff, and it's going to be catered by Sun Street, which is a local food cart, which is in association with Zingerman's community of businesses. And There will be food and alcohol, some craft beer and some wine, and
That sounds like a good deal.
yeah,
It's like, hey, come look at my show, and we'll give you a bunch of free stuff.
exactly.
That's a good reason to go.
Yeah,
It's a good reason to go. Get a little saucy.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I guess that's a good enough point to end this show on. And let's see. This is the Unofficial Ann Arbor Artist Webcast. And if you would like to find out more about us doing this more in the future, or if you would like to provide sponsorship for us doing this in the future, if you're a local business and you'd like to get your name out there, I will post some links along with this webcast. And signing off, this is Ezekiel Courts here with Jeremiah Jaroch and sound engineer Jules Nearing. Adios.